I'm George Curtis. Welcome to It's Your Law. Each week it's my privilege to bring you guests that teach us all about the law. They have different opinions, different experiences, different skills, and different points of view. But if you've been following this particular show, you understand that my own bias is that the most important freedoms we have in this country are freedom to the ballot box and freedom to the jury box. And election time, to me, may be the most important time in our democracy. Well, we're in the middle of election time. Today's guest is a candidate for the United States Senate. We just get 2 senators in each state. We have staggered elections. There are 10 people I know of that want to be your next senator in an election that's going to take place this year. One of them is the incumbent, Ron Johnson. He's a Republican, and the other 9 are Democrats. I hope all 10 are on this show, but I want to tell you that I called the first candidate. He's our guest today. He came to mind. I know him. He's local, and he's got a lot to say, and I admire his running for this office, and he's my guest right here today. Tom Nelson.
Good to see you, Mr. Curtis.
Well,
thank you for the invitation. Appreciate
it. You are the executive of our neighboring county, Outagamie County. How long have you had that job?
We're going on the 11th year. So I was elected back in 2011. Before that, I was in the state assembly. So it's my 3rd term, and as you mentioned before, I'm your neighbor to the north, and Winnebago and Outagamie, we've got a lot of similarities. So I think what I do as county executive is pretty similar to what the Winnebago County executive does.
Well, and one of the things that's amazing about it, Tom, is that Outagamie County is a conservative county. Mm-hmm. Usually the conservative candidates, the Republicans, get the most votes, and you had a record of being a liberal Democratic representative in the legislature, and yet you successfully ran for this job and have kept this job, what did you say, a little over 10 years?
Yep, about 10 years.
So you obviously have an appeal to thinking people in all walks of life, not just the fringe liberals. And what do you attribute that to?
Well, I think regardless if you are a Democrat or a Republican or an independent, and you mentioned about how the 2 important things are access to the ballot box and the jury box. I think here in Wisconsin, certainly in northeast Wisconsin, Outagamie County, we take that right very seriously. So whether you're a Democrat or Republican, I believe most people look beyond the label and look at the candidate and look at their qualities and what they stand for, but they also look at the track record. And if you are a candidate for office or if you are a public official, what you need to do is you need to get the trust of the voters. And I believe I've gained the trust of a lot of folks in Outagamie County because I've been able to work with both Democrats and Republicans, and we've been able to put together very fiscally sound and responsible, balanced budgets. We've maintained a AAA bond rating with a declining tax rate for over 6 years. So I've been able to work hard to get the trust of my constituents. And they think, well, you know, if you can run the county well, 23 different departments, if you can have a AAA bond rating, a declining tax rate, and fully funded services, well, they're going to return you to your job again and again.
And of course, Outagamie County is a corporation, just like all 72 counties, and it has to be run efficiently, and that requires some cooperation from people who differ with you on some issues.
Right. Most of my budgets have passed on unanimous votes or pretty close to a unanimous vote. And of course, just like Winnebago County, the Outagamie County supervisors are not all Democrats, nor are they all Republicans. And so to get an overwhelming majority of support, goes to the importance of being able to put together responsible budgets and to be able to get the trust, not just the trust of the voters, but also the county board supervisors who ultimately approve your budget.
And of course, we see the need throughout the country, if not the world, right now, of the inability of people to step across the aisle, shake hands, work out a problem with civility. I have never seen the country more split than it is now.
It's frustrating. And there are some instances where the toxic partisanship has come down to the local level. You've seen this in a number of recall elections for school boards. We know that that's been a flashpoint for a number of issues the last year, year and a half. But I think at county government, we have so far been insulated from that. And if it were not the case, we would not have been able to deliver the kind of services that you need, especially during the pandemic. But still, my budgets were passed on an overwhelming majority. We worked very well with our department heads, our constitutional officers. So fortunately, at least for Outagamie County, we've been fortunate to avoid some of that toxic partisanship, and our constituents are best served by that.
My recollection is that you were born in Minnesota. You have a degree from Carleton, outstanding school in Minnesota, where two of my grandchildren have graduated.
Oh, really?
And then you've gone on to, was it Princeton, to get a graduate degree? Yeah. So you've certainly got well-educated foundation besides all of this experience in government.
Yeah, and I credit those opportunities to the community that I grew up with. A loving family, a supportive community, a safe community, good schools, great teachers that gave me the opportunity to take advantage of, being able to be blessed to go to good schools and be able to come back home and to run for office and to serve the people that were able to provide me with a childhood and be able to grow up in a safe community. So this is, I think personally, it's an honor to be able to serve in the capacity I have in my home area.
Well, we're about to take our first break, and we're going to get into a second segment because you're interested in taking off on a new flight. And this is quite a jump because you're dealing with 10 people. You're one of the 10 who are running for Senate. Takes a lot of money. Many of them are millionaires. Many of them are collecting a whole lot of dark money allowed by the Citizens United decision, which I think is the worst decision our Supreme Court has ever made. And you're coming into this without the money. And so we're going to take a bit of a break here, and we're going to come back, and I'm going to say, Tom, how do you think you're going to pull that off? We'll be right back. Welcome back to It's Your Law. My guest is Tom Nelson, the current executive of Outagamie County, and he's thrown his hat in the ring to run for Senate, one of two senators representing the state of Wisconsin. And we've had a tradition of some great senators, and we've had a couple of clunkers. And the fact that there are 10 people running at this time is probably indication that many people think we've got a clunker.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Tom?
You would call that a hometown clunker? All right. Well, the reason why I'm running is you see too much in Washington, I think, quite frankly, with the incumbent being checked out and really not understanding what it is to raise a family, to put food on the table, how it is to get by in this day and time. We need to have someone in Washington that understands the challenges, whether it's at the local level, a family, work, whatever it might be. And so as county executive, I have this unique background of being able to, at a local level, make the government work and being able to work with Democrats and Republicans. I've got a solid track record. So not only do I have a solid track record of being able to work with Republicans and Democrats and get things done, serving my community, I can also get elected. And I'm the only one in the field that's won election, re-election 6 times in red part of the state, 3 as a legislator and 3 as a county executive. And I don't think the U.S. Senate needs any more millionaires or billionaires. They could use a county executive or two, someone with real experience who's been on the ground, who knows what it is in this day and age to struggle and how we need to stand up and fight for working families.
Well, there are some things that we need as citizens throughout the country, and there are some special things that we need here in Wisconsin. And I know you've been very active in some of these areas. A couple that come to my mind are the environment. Another is jobs. And in fact, you are given credit for basically saving a paper mill and many jobs with that paper mill when it looked like it was gone. And jobs are so critical to our economy, to our being able to give citizens a chance to put their kids through college, to equality, so it isn't just the wealthy that can send their kids to college and have a future for them. Medical care, oh boy, are we getting a lesson on the importance of medical care.
Yes.
Clean air, clean water, and many tangential issues. Our environment, 15,000 lakes, and many of them we're finding have some serious problems with them already.
That's right.
It isn't that we're short on issues here in Wisconsin. What are the primary ones that you're zeroing in on?
Well, I think consistently it's economic issues. And if I were to kind of characterize my service, it is an economic populist. Someone who comes from a blue-collar neighborhood who knows some of these challenges. So I think as a legislator and as a county executive and as a U.S. Senator, you need to be focused on the bread and butter issues. That is always the case, whether it's a good economy or a bad economy, whether it's high inflation or low inflation, you need to be focused on that. And so I think, here's a really good example in our backyard. Just down the street, we have the issue about the Oshkosh truck and the United States Postal Service contract, and how there is the current incumbent U.S. Senator that's not willing to fight for their jobs. And a lot of us, including myself, we have stood up. I have stood up to say that we need to fight to keep those jobs in Oshkosh. And Oshkosh is not the only one. We have a number of economic challenges and issues all over the state. And so the number one issue is honing in on the economic issues, being able to say no to the bad trade deals that ship jobs overseas, to finally stand up and raise the minimum wage for the first time in 12 or 13 years, to be able to champion legislation that will make it easier for small businesses to stay in business, to thrive, for making people having the opportunity to organize in their workplace. Those are the types of things that if you can come out and champion and point to a track record and a history of being able to deliver, whether it's pointing to my work, working to help save the Appleton Coated Paper Mill after basically it was going to be shut down. We saved 300 jobs. We brought that mill back, and we continue to have $300 million of economic activity in a tiny community of 3,000. Think about that. I mean, that makes an impact in a lot of people's lives.
Well, I've heard it said that all issues are local. And while that's an oversimplification, if we have a job, a decent income, a little left over for some quality for our family, our kids having the same opportunity of somebody who maybe inherited a pile of money, that's what America is built on. And I think that's especially what Wisconsin was built on. A real working ethic area, and it needs to be protected, not necessarily by bigger tax dodges for the very, very wealthy, who all too often seem to double their net worth when they get in Congress.
Yes, yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do, and the first thing I will do if I get to Washington, is to pass a stock trading ban for members of Congress and their families. When people know that there are members of Congress who go to Washington of limited means and they come back as a millionaire many times over, there's something wrong with the system. And to know that members of Congress and U.S. senators who have access to information that most folks do not, effectively insider information, and buy and sell stocks and make millions and millions of dollars, people are upset by that. And I think the fact that right now, not just Republicans, but Democrats and Republicans in the U.S. Senate and in Congress are not acting on this, I think people in the public, I think the American people are beginning to lose confidence. And the least thing that we can do is to pass common sense reforms. And right now, the U.S. Senate, 2/3 of the U.S. Senate are not millionaires. If I get elected, I will be one in the tiny, lonely minority of just 1/3 who are not wealthy. And so I certainly won't be going to Washington to make money, unlike others.
Hold that thought. We have to take our second break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you about a very interesting article that I read comparing you with one of the favorite people in my life, Russ Feingold. We'll be right back. Welcome back to It's Your Law. I have a guest who is a candidate for Senate for the state of Wisconsin, and he's the first of 10 that I called because I know him. I have a lot of confidence in his judgment, and I think he's an outstanding candidate. I'm not telling anybody who to vote for. They're all going to be welcome at this particular show. But one of my favorite senators, Russ Feingold, is somebody I have followed and supported, and you have been compared to him. What are the similarities?
Well, first of all, it's very humbling. It's very humbling to have that comparison because I know that this Senate seat in particular, this is the Senate seat of Russ Feingold, but it's also the Senate seat of Gaylord Nelson. And when you look at public service here in modern history, those are two giants. And it's not lost on me that I will have this awesome responsibility to try to follow through on the same type of public service that they did. You know, I think there might be a couple of reasons. You know, if you compare myself to the rest of the field, I don't have a lot of name recognition. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a millionaire. And so, as you mentioned before, I don't have the means that most candidates do. But if you look at what Feingold did 30 years ago, they didn't give him any chance. He talked about being an underdog, but he stuck to his guns. He focused on the issues that he thought were important, and he just kind of talked to people in just a plain spoken manner. And people saw that he was genuine and he was honest. And similarly, I've approached this campaign focusing on bread and butter issues that have been important to the constituents I've had when I was in the Assembly and as well as county executive. I understand that just as it was when Senator Feingold, during his service, we have confronted some terrible moments, I think, certainly worse than when he was there. What happened last year during the insurrection, and this country is coming dangerously close to authoritarian rule, that we need to have people in Washington that will not excuse that kind of behavior and will know just how fragile our institutions are. You see that as an attorney. I've seen it as a county official, as a state official. I look at this job as being a caretaker. It's not permanent. We're kind of temporary help, and we are stewards in this position. I try to make the best of the opportunity that we have. So this has been a grassroots campaign. This has been a 72 county campaign. Last year, and we're serious about this, we went to 72 counties, all 72 counties in 43 days. And when Senator Feingold, when he was in Senate, he made a point to go to every single county to do a listening session. So in that spirit, we did listening sessions in all 72 counties. And I learned a lot. And I think that I learned a lot more had I not been dedicated, had I not been committed to running 72 county campaigns. So this is the grassroots campaign, the people's campaign that are focused on the issues that I think are important to folks in Northeast Wisconsin. And as I found traveling around the state in the last 16 months, all over this state.
Well, and you listen. You listen to what people are concerned about, and I wonder if there's enough listening going on and too much speech giving. You're going into the campaign not very rich. You're going to take on the job not to get rich. You're doing it to make a difference. And precisely what are the values that you intend to weigh in on for the American people?
I think that the American people are looking for honesty. They're looking for integrity. They're looking for someone who is going to work hard and be focused on their job and the people's business. I don't think folks have a lot of confidence in our institutions because what has been happening recently. And so I can go to Washington with the experience of being a local official and a state official, someone who has stood up for the families that I grew up with on Carolyn Drive in Little Chute, fighting to save that paper mill. I mean, on our block growing up, all the dads worked at paper mills, except for my dad. He was a Lutheran pastor. And as I like to say, he wore a white collar. But it was from that experience growing up that I learned the importance of community service and serving your community, but also how there are a lot of people in this life who work hard, they play by the rules, they pay their taxes, they do whatever they need to do, but they can't seem to get ahead in life. And the working families, they need to have a champion. My mom and my dad, they always said, Thomas, if you ever get into a position where you can affect real change, or you can help out those families, you have to take advantage of that opportunity. I'm blessed to be able to run 23 different departments as county executive, everything from an international airport that supports over 3,000 jobs in our community to leading a county during a pandemic, one of the most trying times that anyone has had to deal with in the last 100 years. So it's very humbling. It's very humbling, and I think showing that kind of experience and that commitment, I think that that's what people are going to like to see in their U.S. Senator.
And I think they like to see real people who have the real challenges that they have in their lives. We keep reading statistics that may or may not be exactly accurate, that 2 or 3% of our population own 93% of the wealth. Right. Well, I don't care, and I don't think you do either. Let them have their wealth. But this country is great because people who think there are things more important than wealth have an opportunity to take their case to the public and say, elect me. I'm like you. I have the values you have, and you can trust me.
And you can't kid a kidder, and you cannot fool a Wisconsin voter. And if you come at it in a very sincere and genuine manner, it doesn't matter if you have millions and billions. What we have in our campaign, we will have enough resources at the end of the day to get our message out. And I've won 6 times in a red part of the state, and if you can win 6 times in a red part of the state, just like New York City, you can win anywhere. And we're going to win statewide.
Well, Tom Nelson, that's why I called you first. I am glad you're a candidate for Senate in the state of Wisconsin, and I wish you well.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to vote. Be sure to study the candidates. We have a lot at stake, and no one is more important to represent our point of view for our country, for our children, for our future than our senator. We have sent some great people to Washington as senators. The state of Wisconsin takes a back seat to nobody. And it matters. The environment, the health of our planet, our water, our children, free and equal education, a fair tax system, an honest election system. All of those things are vital for the survival of this country. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I'm telling you your vote had better be intelligently invested. The safety of our country is at stake. I'm George Curtis, and that's my opinion.